Hey y'all, so obviously the league is well past its prime, but with recent announcements of 0.4 coming up, maybe this will be considered some evergreen content, though Abyss may change, at least the mechanics of ritual may still be applicable. So further to my previous video where I had randomly gotten 16,000 tribute, I was finally able to replicate this. TLDR, basically naturally overrun Abyss maps generate the rituals near Abyss, so basically you just have to juice pack size, waystone and tablet mods, and desecrate the waystone with Abyss spawns increased monsters. And this is post 0.3 after the tower changes. I'd surveyed a bunch of other ritual YouTube videos, see the links in the description. And only one from Majestic where his friend got similar number of tribute, but that was with multiple tower juicing. Check out those other videos for more general info about ritual mechanics, like the Spot the King video where he says delirium monsters increase tribute, but breach doesn't, you can't drag monsters in, and strong boxes count. Furthermore, in my opinion, I think map mods with increased packs don't count, and it doesn't seem like the cleansed areas make a big difference. So this is my first time doing any sort of testing, hopefully something to contribute to the community, but it took a long time, just a SSF mid-gamer here, and life gets in the way. Weeks ago I tried putting the idea out there half-heartedly via YouTube comments, but there were no takers, so I had to do the testing myself. I pathed around the world map, set up about 13 naturally overrun Abyss maps, and then I tested the parameters of the desecration mods, instilling guilt for pack size, different tablet mods, various atlas setups, and openness of the maps. This was not like tens or hundreds of map testing like Farnham or Farmer, but I was able to replicate the over 16,000 tribute, so I can draw some conclusions on the parameters. So obviously further testing is required. I'm not sure about the Atlas setups, and RNG plays a big role too, but at least understanding some of the basic mechanics, I could reliably generate 10,000 tribute, and as I said before, up to 16,000 tribute on a good setup and good procs. And jumping into the specs and the testing, I ran it all on this standard Flickr character. As I said before, mid-gamer SSF, so other than this ring, which was pretty good RNG, the rest of my gear is all pretty mid, self-crafted, nothing too special. Res not even fully capped. For a long time it wasn't even capped. Level 97 now. 60% evasion. This gets a bit spicy running Abyss like this, but I think I only died once due to lag, and one time I died, just got one tapped for unknown reasons. In terms of the Atlas, I think it's fairly standard in terms of endgame juicing, just really doing all the tablet effects, pack size, tablet, waystone modifiers, explicit modifiers, these, and then rare monsters and magic monsters. And then in terms of the actual ritual atlas, a lot of this is like really hard to test, and I don't know the exact effects. The standard is to keep this promised devotion on, but I was trying this one from the Mist with additional packs of wildwood monsters. I think this one could be potentially good, but it wasn't good for me because Flickr just throws me all over the place. But if you can stand near this, I think this could be useful. This I think is pretty typical for a ritual. It gets more omens. This one definitely you always need to have this one for rituals. This one is also pretty standard in typical ritual setups to re-roll favors an additional time, but I tried testing this one and this one even, and I couldn't really tell if those had a big effect. So it's really hard to say. And so I set up a big spreadsheet for all this testing. So flashbang warning. So these are all the maps that I ran. So I ran these ones originally. I had about 13 here. This one highlighted in yellow is the one where I finally reached the over 16,000. I didn't take videos of that, but I do have videos of this one at 13,000. You can see here I was generally testing, and it was kind of going up based on my testing and my hypothesis from before. So I was the methodology was, to prep all the waystones, prep the maps, again, all naturally overrun. The first thing I tested was the desecration. So this one's, there's the desecration mod where cracks and pits increase magic monsters. But I think what you really want is the desecration mod where Abyss has increased monsters. You can see here the difference right away. And based on my testing, that does seem to make a big difference. The next big difference was in terms of instilling guilt for pack size. So I started instilling guilt for pack size. Oh, then I died on this one. I just face planted and got one tapped one time. This one I started instilling guilt down here. So that made a big jump from before. The other big one was the tablets. So there's, I think I'm only SSF, so I don't have access to all the tablets, but I did have this increased tribute tablet, and I do think that made a sizable difference. I felt like I could see the difference when I started using that tablet. There are other ones where it says like revived monsters come back as rare, and that didn't seem to have a big effect. Whereas I think this increased tribute one did have a substantial effect. Once I started using it, I don't know, it did seem to make a difference. The other ones in terms of the testing, the Alice tree procs. So these, as I showed before, these were really hard to test or to tell any sort of difference. And then the final one was kind of like map openness. That one was also a bit hard to test. Most of these felt kind of like medium openness. I thought the Oasis, which is kind of like the most open test that I had, would have been the best. These two here were kind of my A/B testing, because one was cleansed, one had a boss on it. But interestingly, they actually came out about the same, because when you have a boss, it's naturally level 80 area level, and that means you can get the good purple omens. So you always want to either have a powerful boss naturally, or you need to have a different, if there is no natural boss, then you need to have a tablet which irradiates it, which means that you cannot then juice it further with a ritual tablet. So that's why I thought this like cleansed natural boss Oasis would have been the best, but it's actually, I don't know, RNG or whatever. It wasn't, it's still like 13,000, which is pretty high, but for whatever reason, this deserted map, I got, 16,000, over 16,000 tribute at the end here, 16,671, and you can see all the map mods here. So like with all the procs, Abyss's spawn 167, pack size 101, and like these numbers with magic and rare monsters seem to do nothing from what I can tell. These are all the procs here, so like there's no correlation apparently between these procs and the final ritual numbers here, but increase in pack size I do think makes a big difference, and the Abyss desecration mod makes a big difference, and the tablets I think make the big difference. I mean, if someone did further testing, then they could probably test a lot of these Atlas procs a bit better, but I only did, again, only SSF here, so I could only test so much. So in summary, first of all, you want to desecrate the Waystone with the mod Abyss has increased monsters. This goes up to 100%, and this is a prefix mod, so typically the way as I'm going through SSF. If I find a waystone, I alch or exalt up to like 4 mods, maybe 5, and if I find any that have prefix filled, then I desecrate it with the rib, I think. And then you don't have to use the omen to target the prefix, it will just automatically add it to the prefix. So I'm always just kind of seeing which waystones I drop like that. Next, you want to instill it with guilt, because that increases the pack size. So, and when it's instilled with guilt, you also get the monsters theoretically add to the count as well, if you were to follow Spud the King's advice. Then we also have the tablets here, and again, from what I can tell, the ones that with increased tribute effect, I think those are the best. There are some, obviously you can get pack size with a lot of the tablets. The ones with revived rare monsters doesn't seem to affect it as much, but further testing is required here. And all the Atlas procs, again, further testing is required there, but I don't know, use the ones where you adds packs, and then standard is to have the ones with rerolls and more omens. And then the openness of the map, I think it does affect it somewhat. The really tight maps like Crypt, where it can't generate a lot of monsters, or Abyss, Cracks, and Pits, I think those are obviously bad. This Crypt was the only one that was kind of very closed off for me in terms of my testing. The other ones were all kind of like medium openness. But then I got to this Oasis and it was like, I don't know, like I didn't get the 16,000 here. It was still pretty high, 13,000. So there's definitely some RNG involved in all of this. But all of this is to say that if you employ some of these strategies, I think you can improve, and then you can combine it with the other strategies that are around, in terms of kind of like getting a ton of rerolls. Like ones in the chat had one where he got like 48 rerolls. So there are different strategies you can combine here. Like you could stack a bunch of them, get a bunch of rerolls from a bunch of ritual maps, stack a bunch of omens and whatever other currency and items, and then get to one of these naturally overrun maps and then kind of stack the tribute so you can buy everything all at once. And 16,000 is pretty high. Other times I'm kind of like, I can guarantee almost getting around 10,000, 8,000, 10,000. The 16,000 was kind of the highest I ever got. But if you can reliably get around 10,000, then that means you can buy a lot of stuff. And I think normally, before I started doing this testing, I was getting kind of like 2,000 or 3,000, maybe 5,000 if I was lucky. But with running this strategy, you can get kind of like double or triple the amount of tribute that you're normally getting, and you can kind of get more of the expensive omens. That's all for now. Happy hunting. Peace out.